Du Young stared out the large window of the Galactic Federation Academy training ship. Earth looked so small from up here, a blue marble floating in the darkness of space. He pressed his hand against the cold glass, thinking about how far he had come from his family's repair shop in Busan. Still homesick? Hey Newell asked, walking up behind him. She carried 2 cups of hot tea, steam rising from them in the cool air of the observation deck. Just thinking, Du Young replied, accepting one of the cups. Did you ever imagine we'd be here? 3 humans in the most advanced engineering program in the galaxy. Newell laughed. You mean 3 Deathworlders who barely passed the physical adaptation tests. She took a sip of her tea. I still remember the looks on their faces when they tested our bone density. The medical officer thought their scanner was broken. Their conversation was interrupted by quick footsteps. Jae-ho, the 3rd member of their group, rushed onto the deck. His usual neat appearance was messy, and excitement showed clearly on his face. You 2 need to come to the main hangar right now, he said, trying to catch his breath. Something big just came in. Do Young and Hae Newell followed Jae-ho through the ship's bright corridors. Other students moved out of their way. Some because of politeness, others because they still weren't comfortable being too close to humans. Even after 6 months at the academy, many alien species found humans unsettling. The main hangar was packed with students and teachers when they arrived. In the center floated a strange ship, about the size of a small house. Its silver hull seemed to shimmer with rainbow colors, like soap bubbles in sunlight. Du Young recognized it immediately as Arxian technology, the most advanced ships in the known galaxy. Commander Yoon-suk stood at the front of the crowd. He was the only other human on the teaching staff, and seeing him always made Du Young feel a little more at home. The commander's voice carried across the hangar as he explained the situation. This morning, our patrol ships found this Arxian research vessel drifting in Sector 7, he said. Its crew abandoned it 3 days ago after all systems failed. 4 different engineering teams from the Arxian fleet tried to repair it. All of them failed. Excited whispers spread through the crowd. Arxian ships almost never broke down, and when they did, Arxian engineers could fix them easily. For 4 teams to fail was unheard of. The Arxian Science Council has given us permission to use this ship as a training exercise, Commander Yoon-suk continued. Each engineering team will have 6 hours to attempt repairs. Consider this your midterm examination. The alien students began talking all at once. Many looked confident, especially the Valaxians, whose species was known for their engineering skills. Near the front, Du Young saw Rix, the top student in their class, already pulling out his advanced diagnostic tools. Humans. The commander's voice made Du Young, Hae Newell, and Jae-ho look up. You'll be last, he said. There was something in his eyes, a hint of amusement that Du Young couldn't quite understand. Watch the other teams carefully. Over the next 2 days, they did exactly that. Team after team tried to repair the ship. They used the most advanced tools, followed all the correct procedures, and failed completely. The ship's crystalline power core stayed dark and lifeless. Its bioneural circuits showed no response to any stimulus. Do Young watched it all, taking notes in his old paper notebook, a habit that made the alien students laugh. But he saw things that their scanners missed. The way the power core's crystal structure resembled the old piezoelectric systems he used to repair in his family's shop. How the bioneural circuits seemed to twitch slightly when the temperature changed during different tests. On the evening before their turn, the 3 humans met in their shared study room. The walls were covered with diagrams and notes, most of them on actual paper, which they preferred over the standard holographic displays. The Valaxians tried to jump-start the power core with an energy pulse, Hae Newell said, drawing on their whiteboard. It should have worked, but it didn't. Because they're thinking too advanced, Jae-ho replied. He was taking apart an old Earth pocket watch, something he often did while thinking. They're trying to restart the system from the inside out. Do Young walked to the whiteboard and drew a simple diagram. What if we do it the other way around? Start from the outside, like we would with an old combustion engine. Hey Newell's eyes widened. You want to jump-start an Arxian ship like an old car? Not exactly, Du Young said, adding more to his diagram. But the principle is similar. The crystal core is like a massive piezoelectric system. If we could create the right kind of physical shock, we'd be risking the most expensive piece of technology we've ever touched, Jiho pointed out. But he was smiling. The alien teams would think we're crazy. We're humans, Hey Newell said, starting to grin. They already think we're crazy. They worked through the night, drawing up plans and running calculations. They knew they were breaking about 50 different safety protocols, but that had never stopped humans before. The next morning, as they walked to the hangar for their turn, Commander Yoon-suk stopped them in the corridor. Whatever you're planning, he said, looking at their determined faces, remember that this ship is worth more than everything on Earth combined. They nodded seriously. The commander's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. Good luck. He paused, then added, show them what Deathworlders can do. As they entered the hangar, Du Young looked at his friends. Hanul was carrying their modified tools, looking confident. Jiho held his notebook of calculations, double-checking everything one last time. The alien students and teachers gathered to watch, probably expecting another failure. Some were already whispering about how primitive humans couldn't possibly succeed where advanced species had failed. Do Yum touched the ship's hull, feeling its smooth, cold surface under his fingers. He smiled. They had 6 hours to repair something that the best engineers in the galaxy had failed to fix. They would do it in time for lunch. Commander Yoon-suk's voice echoed through the hangar. Your 6 hours begin now. Do-Yum looked at his teammates and nodded. Let's show them how we fix things on Earth. The first hour passed quickly as the 3 human cadets studied the failed attempts of the previous teams. Hey Newell sat cross-legged on the hangar floor, surrounded by holographic records of earlier repair attempts. Her dark hair was tied back tightly as she focused on the data streams. Look at this, she called to her teammates. Every team tried to restart the power core using energy pulses. None of them considered a physical approach. Jiho knelt beside her, his eyes moving rapidly over the figures. They're treating it like pure energy technology. They forgot that crystals are physical objects too. Above them, Du-Young hung from a maintenance harness, examining the ship's outer hull. He ran his hands over the smooth surface, feeling for imperfections that the scanning tools might have missed. This habit of touching machinery always confused their alien classmates, but every human mechanic knew that sometimes your hands could tell you things that sensors couldn't. Found something interesting, Du-Young called down. The hull's temperature isn't constant. It's slightly warmer near the bioneural pathway connections. The watching crowd of alien students had grown larger. Many were recording the humans' strange examination methods on their datapads. Near the front, Rix, the Valaxian top student, spoke loudly to his friends. Look at them. They're touching it with their bare hands like primitives. No wonder their species still hasn't developed proper neural interfaces. Commander Yoon-suk's voice cut through the murmurs. Cadet Rix, would you care to explain why your team's neural interface approach failed yesterday? The alien student's faceplates shifted in embarrassment, and he stepped back into the crowd. Inside the ship, the human team found more clues. The crystalline power core sat in its chamber like a giant diamond, dark and lifeless. In normal operation, it should have pulsed with rainbow colors, converting quantum fluctuations into usable energy. Now it was as cold as ice. The Arxians think it's dead, Jiho said, consulting his notes. Their scans show 0 energy output. Hanul pressed her hand against the crystal surface. It's not dead. Feel this. Her teammates touched the crystal. Under their fingers, they felt the slightest vibration, so faint that even the most sensitive instruments had missed it. It's like an engine that's seized up, Du-Young said, excitement in his voice. The crystal matrix is locked, but it's still trying to move. 4 hours remained on their time limit. In the observation area above the hangar, more teachers and senior students had gathered to watch. Most expected another failure, but something about the humans' methodical approach had caught their attention. The team gathered in the ship's main engineering room. Newell spread out their hand-drawn plans on the floor, another primitive habit that made the aliens whisper. The plans showed the ship's systems drawn in simple diagrams, stripped of all the complicated technical language that usually surrounded Arxian technology. The bioneural circuits are like a living thing, Newell explained, pointing to her drawings. When living things get too cold, they go into hibernation. And when the circuits went into hibernation, the crystal lost its control signal, Jai-Ho added. But it's still trying to work. That's why it's vibrating. Do-Young nodded. So we need to wake up the circuits and help the crystal break free at the same time. He paused, then smiled. We're going to need to break about 20 safety protocols to do this. 23, Jai-Ho corrected, checking his notebook. 25 if you count the ones about proper tool usage. Commander Yoon-suk's voice came over the ship's communication system. 3 hours remaining, cadets. They began their work. Do-Young modified their tools, stripping away safety limiters and connecting power cells in ways their manufacturers never intended. Jai-Ho calculated the exact frequencies they would need, using paper and pencil instead of the standard quantum calculators. Newell prepared the bioneural circuits, setting up a carefully controlled temperature gradient that would have horrified any Arxian engineer. The alien observers watched in growing concern. Several teachers moved to stop the humans when they saw what they were doing to the tools, but Commander Yoon-suk held up his hand. Let them work, he said calmly. Sometimes progress requires us to question our assumptions about what is possible. 2 hours remained when they finished their preparations. The modified tools were connected to the crystal core in a way that made the alien students back away nervously. Temporary heat exchangers surrounded the main bioneural pathways, ready to create the temperature shock that Newell had calculated. This is either going to work perfectly, Jai-Ho said, checking their connections one last time, or it's going to be the most expensive mistake in Academy history. Newell grinned. That's what they said about the first human FTL test flight, and look how that turned out. Ready? Do-Young asked, his hands on the main control panel they had built from spare parts and modified power cells. His teammates nodded. Around them, the alien observers held their breath, many recording what they probably expected to be a spectacular failure. Do-Young took a deep breath. On Earth, in his family's shop, they had a tradition before trying any dangerous repair. He smiled and spoke the words in Korean. Please work, you stubborn machine. He pressed the activation switch. The ship's lights flickered as power surged through their modified tools. The crystal core vibrated visibly now, humming at exactly the frequency Jai-Ho had calculated. Temperature alarms blared as Newell's heat exchangers pushed the bioneural circuits to their limits. Warning messages filled the air in multiple languages. The alien observers backed away further, some covering their sensory organs in anticipation of disaster. Hold steady, Do-Young called over the noise. Just like jumping a dead battery, give it time to catch. The crystal's vibration increased. Small arcs of energy began to dance across its surface. The bioneural circuits pulsed with faint light as their temperature rose. Primary crystal matrix is starting to move, Jai-Ho reported, watching his instruments. Bioneural activity increasing. Newell's fingers flew over her control panel. Neural pathways are responding. Temperature shock in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered. The crystal core's vibration reached its peak. Then, for a moment, everything went quiet. Commander Yoon-suk's voice broke the silence. 1 hour remaining, cadets. Do-Young looked at his teammates. They all knew what he was thinking. Everything they had tried so far had done something, but the ship still wasn't running. They had 1 hour left to prove that humans could solve a problem that had stumped the most advanced species in the galaxy. Newell straightened her back. Well, she said with a determined smile, We better hurry if we want to get this done before lunch." They turned back to their work, minds racing with new ideas. Behind them, the crystal core continued to vibrate softly, like an engine waiting to roar to life. With less than an hour remaining, Du Young walked slowly around the crystal core chamber. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he thought. The previous attempt had shown them they were close, but something was still missing. "The vibrations are stronger now," he said, pressing his hand against the crystal. "But it's like the core is stuck. It needs something more to break free." Jai-Ho sat at his makeshift workstation, surrounded by calculations. He had filled several pages with numbers and diagrams, working out every detail of their plan. Now he looked up with tired eyes. "We've tried everything in the standard procedures," he said. "Even our modified versions aren't enough." Hanul stood by the bioneural control panel, watching the temperature readings. The circuits were responding to their treatment, showing more signs of life than they had in days. But without the crystal core providing power, they couldn't fully activate. "Maybe we're still thinking too much like Academy students," she said quietly. "What would we do if this was just another broken machine in a repair shop on Earth?" Do Young stopped walking. A memory flashed in his mind. His grandfather's voice in their family shop, teaching him about old engines. Sometimes, the old man had said, a stubborn machine just needs a good knock to remember how to work. "That's it," Du Young said suddenly. His teammates looked at him with surprise. "We're treating this crystal like it's delicate technology. But it's still just a crystal. What happens to crystals under pressure?" Jai-Ho's eyes widened. "Piezoelectric effect. Physical pressure creates electrical charge." He grabbed his notebook and started calculating rapidly. "If we could create the right kind of shock wave through the crystal structure, we could jumpstart the whole system." Hanul finished. She was already moving to her control panel. "The bioneural circuits are almost ready. They just need that initial power surge." Commander Yoon-suk's voice came over the speakers. 45 minutes remaining, cadets." They worked quickly now, with purpose. Du Young modified their tools again, creating what was essentially a giant tuning fork. Ji-Ho calculated the exact frequency they would need, using principles from Earth's old sonic drilling technology. Hanul prepared the bioneural circuits for one final attempt. The alien observers watched with growing concern. They could tell the humans were planning something drastic. Rix, the Valaxian student, stepped forward. "Commander," he said urgently, "they're going to damage the crystal core. That equipment they're building, it's completely against safety protocols." Commander Yoon-suk looked at the worried alien student. "Tell me, Cadet Rix, what is the value of a safety protocol that prevents us from fixing a broken ship?" In the crystal chamber, the human team finished their preparations. Their makeshift device was attached to the crystal core's support frame. It looked crude compared to the elegant Arxian technology around it, but every measurement was precise. "Bioneural circuits are at optimal temperature," Hanul reported. "They're as ready as they'll ever be." Jai-Ho checked his calculations one final time. "The resonance frequency is set. If this works, it should create exactly the right kind of pressure wave through the crystal structure." Du Young stood at the main control panel. "Everyone ready? This is going to be loud." The alien observers covered their sensory organs as the humans activated their device. A deep humming filled the ship, building slowly in intensity. The crystal core began to vibrate in sync with the sound. "Crystal structure is responding," Jai-Ho called out, watching his instruments. "Internal stress is building, reaching optimal levels." Hanul's fingers moved quickly over her controls. Bioneural circuits are showing increased activity. They're trying to connect with the core. The humming grew louder. The crystal's vibration increased until it was visible to the naked eye. Warning messages flashed on every screen, but the humans ignored them. "Almost there," Du Young said, his hand steady on the controls. "Just a little more." Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound echoed through the chamber. Several alien observers cried out in alarm, certain that the humans had just destroyed priceless technology. But Du Young smiled. He recognized that sound from years of working with crystals in his family's shop. It wasn't the sound of breaking. It was the sound of something locked breaking free. The crystal core pulsed once, then twice. A faint glow began to build at its center. Power readings. Ji-ho shouted excitedly. We've got power readings. Hae-Nul's control panel lit up with activity. Biomural circuits are connecting. The pathways are opening. The crystal's glow grew stronger, colors shifting through its structure like aurora lights. The ship's systems began to come online one by one, displays lighting up throughout the chamber. Commander Yoon-suk's voice came over the speakers again, but this time there was a note of pride in it. 30 minutes remaining, cadets. Would you care to explain to the observing faculty what you just did? Do Young looked at his teammates, then at the now glowing crystal core. He spoke clearly, knowing every alien in the hangar was listening. We remembered that sometimes the most advanced technology still follows basic physical laws, he said. The crystal core wasn't dead. It was locked in place, like a seized engine. All it needed was the right kind of physical stimulus to break free. And the bioneural circuits, Commander Yoon-suk prompted. Hae-Nul stepped forward. They were in hibernation. Sir, like any living system, they needed the right environmental conditions to wake up. Once we provided those conditions and gave them the power surge from the crystal core, they remembered how to function. The alien observers murmured among themselves, some taking rapid notes, others still looking shocked at the humans' methods. Ji-ho added the final explanation. We didn't try to restart the advanced systems directly. Instead, we focused on the basic physical properties of the components. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Commander Yoon-suk's voice held a smile. And how long until the ship's systems are fully operational? Do Young checked the readings on the main display. The crystal core was now pulsing with steady, bright light. The bioneural circuits showed strong, stable activity patterns all around them. The ship was humming with restored power. He looked at the time display and grinned. Everything should be fully online in about 20 minutes, sir. He paused, then added, just in time for lunch. News of the human cadet's success spread quickly through the academy training ship. As Du Young, Hae-Nul, and Ji-ho walked toward the cafeteria, other students moved aside, looking at them with new interest. Some even nodded in respect, a big change from their usual reactions to humans. I still can't believe it worked, Ji-ho said, carrying his notebooks under his arm. The pages were crumpled from their intense work session, but the calculations had proven correct. Grandfather always said the simplest solution is often the best, Du Young replied. He looked tired but happy, though I don't think he ever imagined I'd use his advice on an Arctian ship. They entered the cafeteria, and for the first time since joining the academy, other students invited them to sit at their tables. The three humans shared a look, then accepted a spot at a table with some Valaxian and Centaurian students. Rix, the top Valaxian student who had doubted them earlier, spoke first. We watched the recordings of your repair method, he said. His face plates shifted and what they had learned was an expression of curiosity. It was unconventional. You mean it was crazy, Hae-Nul said with a smile, opening her lunch container. The other aliens at the table moved slightly away from her earth food, still unsure about human eating habits, sometimes crazy works. A Centaurian student leaned forward, her crystalline eyes reflecting light. But how did you know the crystal wouldn't shatter? The resonance frequencies you used were far beyond safety limits. Because we tested similar crystals back on Earth, Ji-ho explained, drawing a quick diagram on his notepad. Our planet's gravity and extreme conditions mean we have to understand how materials behave under stress. The conversation was interrupted by Commander Yoon-suk approaching their table. The students started to stand, but he waved them back down. The Arctian Science Council has reviewed your repair work, he announced, looking at the three humans. They want to know exactly how you did it. Their engineers are particularly interested in your, what did you call it? The jump start method. Do Young nodded. It's based on old Earth technology, sir. Before we had fusion power, we used to restart vehicles by applying direct electrical current to their power systems. The commander's eyes showed amusement. You'll need to explain that in detail. The Council has never heard of starting a power system by physically shocking it into operation. Most species haven't had to deal with broken-down vehicles in -40-degree weather. Hey Newell added. On Earth, we learned to be creative with repairs. The alien students listened with growing interest. One of the Valaxians spoke up. Is that why humans still learn about primitive technology? We thought it was because your species was behind in development. We're not behind, Jai-Ho explained patiently. We just believe in understanding the basics. Every advanced system is built on simple principles. When the complex solutions fail, sometimes you need to go back to the fundamentals. Commander Yoon-suk nodded approvingly. The Council agrees. They've requested that the Academy include basic physical repair methods in the standard curriculum. They believe other species could benefit from understanding these primitive approaches. The three humans shared proud smiles. Their success wasn't just about fixing one ship. It was about showing the value of Earth's practical knowledge. Sir, Du Young asked, what will happen to the ship now? It will be studied, the commander replied. The Arxians want to understand why their advanced diagnostic tools missed what human hands could feel. They're also interested in your theory about bioneural circuits behaving like living organisms in hibernation. Hey Newell's eyes lit up. The temperature response was similar to how Earth creatures react to cold. Once we thought of it that way, the solution was obvious. Obvious to humans, perhaps, Rick said. His tone was respectful now. We're taught to trust our instruments and follow procedures. The idea of using physical senses to diagnose problems. He paused. It seems dangerous. Living on a death world is dangerous, Du Young said simply. You learn to use every tool available, including your own senses. The conversation continued through lunch, with the alien students asking more questions about Earth's repair techniques. The humans explained how their planet's harsh conditions had taught them to be resourceful, to find solutions with whatever tools were available. As they talked, more students gathered around their table. The usual barrier between humans and aliens seemed to be breaking down. Even species that normally avoided Deathworlders were listening with interest. Maybe, Jai-Ho said quietly to his human friends, this is why we were accepted into the Academy. Not just to learn advanced technology, but to teach others our way of thinking. Hanul smiled. Teaching advanced species to think like primitives. That's pretty funny when you think about it. Not primitive, Commander Yoon-suk corrected. He had stayed to listen to the discussion. Practical. The galaxy has become so focused on advancement that many species have forgotten the importance of understanding basic principles. Do Young looked around the cafeteria, where once they had sat alone. Now they were surrounded by curious students from across the galaxy, all because they had solved a problem using simple Earth knowledge. Sir, he asked the commander, do you think this will change how the Academy views human students? Commander Yoon-suk's eyes crinkled with pride. It already has. The Council has requested we double the number of human cadets next year. They believe your, what did you call it? Your Deathworlder innovation could be valuable in solving problems throughout the galaxy. The three humans sat a little straighter, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. They hadn't just fixed a ship, they had opened a door for future human students and shown the galaxy that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. Just wait until they learn about duct tape, Hey Newell whispered to her friends, making them laugh. The alien students looked confused by their laughter, but that was okay. There would be time to explain more of Earth's practical solutions. For now, they had earned their place at the Academy, proving that being from a death world wasn't a disadvantage, it was a strength. The rest of lunch passed with more questions and explanations. By the time they finished eating, Several alien students had asked to learn more about Earth's repair techniques. It seemed their simple solution had sparked a revolution in how the galaxy thought about problem-solving. And it had all happened before lunch. 1 week after fixing the Arxian ship, Du Young stood in front of the Academy's main assembly hall. Through the large windows, he could see Earth shining in the distance. The same view that had made him homesick now filled him with pride. Inside the hall, representatives from various galactic species had gathered. The Arxian Science Council had called this special meeting to discuss the implications of what 3 human cadets had accomplished. Du Young, He Nul, and Ji Ho wore their formal academy uniforms, pressed and perfect for the occasion. "We are here today," began the head counselor, his crystalline form catching the light, "to recognize an achievement that challenges our understanding of technological advancement." The hall was silent as he continued. "For generations, we believed that progress meant moving away from physical interaction with machinery. We created better scanning tools, more sophisticated diagnostic systems, and automated repair protocols." Hamnul stood straight beside Du Young, her expression calm despite the attention of so many important figures. Ji Ho held his old notebook, now containing the official documentation of their repair method. "These human cadets have shown us that we may have been wrong," the head counselor said. "Their success proves that direct physical interaction with technology, combined with an understanding of basic principles, can solve problems that our most advanced systems cannot." Commander Yoon-suk stepped forward, carrying 3 small boxes. Inside each was a special commendation, the highest honor the Academy could give to students. But these were different from the usual awards. "The Council has created a new category of recognition," Commander Yoon-suk announced. "The Deathworlder Innovation Award, to be given to those who find extraordinary solutions through practical application of fundamental principles." Do Young accepted his award with steady hands. The metal inside was made from a piece of the crystal core they had repaired, carved with Earth's image on one side and the Academy's symbol on the other. Furthermore, the head counselor continued, "The Academy will establish a new department, Practical Engineering Solutions. These human cadets will help design a curriculum, teaching other species the value of understanding and maintaining basic technological principles." Ji Ho looked up from his award in surprise. They hadn't expected this level of recognition. Teaching positions at the Academy were usually reserved for graduates with years of experience. "Sir," He Nul asked carefully, "you want us to teach other species how to think like humans?" A ripple of amusement passed through the assembly. The head counselor's crystal structure shifted in what they now recognized as a smile. "We want you to teach them how to think practically," he corrected. "Your planet's harsh conditions have given your species valuable insights. The galaxy needs this knowledge." After the ceremony, the 3 humans found themselves in Commander Yoon-suk's office. The familiar space felt different now, filled with the weight of their new responsibilities. "The Council has approved all of your recommendations," the commander said, looking at a holographic display. "Basic physical repair techniques will be mandatory for all engineering students. We're also building new training facilities that can simulate Earth conditions." "The other species won't like that," Du Young said, thinking of how their classmates struggled with Earth's gravity. "They don't have to like it," Commander Yoon-suk replied. "They just have to learn from it. The galaxy is changing. We're finding more problems that advanced technology alone can't solve." Nul looked at the Earth through the office window. "My grandmother used to say that anyone can use a tool, but understanding how it works is what makes you an engineer." "Wise words," the commander agreed. "The Council wants regular reports on your teaching methods and results. They're particularly interested in how you integrate Earth's practical knowledge with advanced galactic technology." Ji Ho opened his notebook, already sketching ideas. "We could start with basic principles, how materials behave under stress, the importance of physical maintenance, the value of direct observation, and maybe a lesson on why keeping old technology knowledge isn't primitive." Du Young added, "It's about understanding the foundations of what we build." Commander Yoon-suk nodded approvingly. You've started a revolution in how the galaxy thinks about technology. The Council believes this could be as important as the discovery of faster-than-light travel. The three humans shared surprised looks. They had only wanted to fix a broken ship, to prove that humans belonged at the Academy. Instead, they had changed how the most advanced species in the galaxy thought about engineering. "There's one more thing," the commander said, his expression serious. "The Council wants to send research teams to Earth. They want to study how living on a death world influences technological development." "They're going to be surprised," Haynul said, smiling. "Wait until they see how many different ways humans have invented to fix things." "That's exactly what they're hoping for," Commander Yunsuk replied. "The galaxy has focused so long on advancing technology that we forgot the importance of maintaining it. Earth's primitive methods might be exactly what we need." Do Young looked at his award, the crystal catching the light just like the ship's core had done. "When I left Earth, I thought we had so much to learn from the galaxy," he said quietly. "I never imagined the galaxy would want to learn from us." "That's the thing about the universe," Commander Yunsuk said, looking at his three students with pride. "The best solutions often come from unexpected places, or in this case, from a small blue planet that most species considered too dangerous to visit." As they left the commander's office, the three humans stopped to look at Earth one more time. Their home planet shone brightly against the black of space, beautiful and harsh, the death world that had taught them to think differently. "You know what this means," Haynul said, grinning at her friends. "We're going to have to explain duct tape to the entire galaxy." Do Young and Jiho laughed, but they knew she was right. Their simple solution to fixing the Arxian ship was just the beginning. They had opened a door between Earth's practical knowledge and the galaxy's advanced technology, and there was no telling what innovations would come from this combination. As they walked through the Academy's corridors, other students stepped aside respectfully. No longer were they just the strange Deathworlders who insisted on touching machinery. Now they were pioneers, bridging the gap between practical experience and advanced theory. And they had done it all before lunch.